What's happening, everybody? Marcus here. It is the 26th of September, Thursday afternoon. I'm going to talk about the one policy, the most important policy that every single business needs to have in place in the U.S. This is a crucial policy, especially restaurants. So the policy that I'm talking about is a sexual harassment slash discrimination policy. And it is like one of the most, it is what you have to have in every business. Now, in New York State, it is now a law as of October 6th that you must have training in place, and every new employee has to have interactive training, not just watch a video, not just read a manual, but have interactive training. Now, this has been our sexual harassment discrimination policy since 2003. I've had this in place. Yes, I'm a very early adapter. When I was in the mid 90s, when I was working at the Broadmoor Hotel in Colorado Springs, we're literally talking 1994. One of the waiters had asked one of the waitresses out on a date, and she said no. And then she went to human resources and said that he's bothering me. And without any questions, well, they did a little quick investigation. But he was immediately suspended and then terminated, the waiter, for simply asking somebody on a date. That's it. Hey, do you want to go out? Let's go out for a beer. Let's go out for dinner. Can I take you out on a date? Something as simple as that got somebody fired in 1994. And I saw that happen personally. I was like, oh my gosh, they just fired him for that. That's crazy. That's insane. And then when I got my first executive chef job in 1998, the very first thing the general manager had me do, the very first thing was write a sexual harassment policy for the whole club. And I was like, gee, you're hiring me as the executive chef, and this is what I'm doing right now. So I have had many years experience of writing this and seeing this and witnessing this firsthand and how important this is. And now, of course, with the Me Too movement, it's insane because people are now coming up and claiming whether true or not, they're making accusations. Accusations is probably the best terminology for this, of things that have happened in the workplace from an employer, from a boss, or they're coming out and saying that things have happened. So you should have this in place. And I've had this in place since we first opened. And again, my very first one I wrote was in 1998. And so some basic things that you need to do in this. Now, here's the good news. If you're in Colorado, Arkansas, Florida, wherever you're at, and you're really interested in doing this, you should do it. You should do it. In New York, you have to do it. Every place should have this in place. And I talked to a lot of business owners. They're like, no, I don't have this in place. I don't have this in place. And I got to tell you, constantly I'm saying stuff to my staff. I'll pull them aside and say, hey, what you just said is a little inappropriate. If that person takes that the wrong way, they're going to come to me and file a complaint. And then I take action on it. And they're like, oh, yeah, because sometimes you just think you're saying something, but the other person can totally take it one step more than you meant it, or maybe even how you meant it, because people just say things nonchalantly, especially in the restaurant industry. So now we've had this policy in place where we've basically just had them sign this. I'm doing a couple updates to this because of the new law here in New York State. New York State wants this to be an interactive. So I have to sit down with them and go over my policy. And then I specifically have to ask them, what else can I explain to you? Do you understand this? Do you have any more questions? So if they were watching a video, it wouldn't be interactive. They would just sit there and look at this video and watch this video. But they have to have a training where you go through the items and you have to ask them if they understand and comprehend everything, or if there's any other questions. And the good news is, if you want to write one, I can easily share this, and I believe this might be in our university, Restaurant Growth Secrets University. You should go to the New York State website. Just type in, it's combating sexual harassment, and this is in New York State. Just put like newyork.gov sexual harassment policy, and you will get all the guidelines that New York State is using. And the guidelines that New York State is using is pretty much on point with this. So I would simply go onto their website and check out all the points. I'm going to highlight a few of the points now that I've come across or coming across with this. So are we ready to go here? Let's see. I lost my screen. I have so many screens open. Let's see here. Where'd we go? All right. I wonder if we have it on here. There we go. I have way too many windows open, by the way. So here are some of the things that are examples of sexual harassment that you might not think are sexual harassment. Okay, physical acts of sexual nature such as touching, by touching somebody, pinching somebody, patting somebody, of course, kissing, hugging somebody can be taken the wrong way. Hugging somebody can totally be taken the wrong way, believe it or not. Grabbing, brushing against another employee's body, or poking, just poking another employee's body. Unwanted sexual advances or propositions such as requests for sexual favors, of course. Subtle or obvious pressure for unwelcome sexual activities, sexually oriented gestures, noises, remarks, or jokes, or folks, even a joke falls under this, or comments about a person's sexuality or sexual experience, which creates a hostile work environment. Sex stereotyping occurs when, sex stereotyping, sexual discrimination, displays, publication anywhere. There's a whole list, folks, here. Displaying, so now example, displaying pictures. So if your employer has something on their computer that is a screensaver that may be sexually offensive, that right there is a no-no. Screensavers here, if you're an employee and every time your phone rings and something's popping up that is of sexual nature, somebody not properly dressed, something of that right there, if another employee sees that popping up on your phone, they can literally file a complaint. And me as the owner, I have to take action and I have to resolve the situation. And a lot of times resolving the situation is by terminating the one person who is at fault. Now, the one thing New York does not have, that I've gone through New York's whole thing right here, and we've adapted, we've added a lot of things, and we've just gone through and we've put our name in. This is literally, I had a 3-4 pager before. This is literally like a 9, this is now like a 10-11 page policy. The one thing that I was missing in my previous one that you need to have in yours if you're in New York State or just anywhere is a complaint form. So if somebody does have an issue, they're not coming to you verbally, they're handing you a complaint. The one thing that New York State does not have that I wish they would have is a time restriction. So for example, somebody can't come to you 3 months later and say, hey, so-and-so made a joke that offended me back last April. I've always had in mind where it's been a policy of you have 48 hours to come to me. And I explain that to every single employee that comes on board. By the way, since we've opened in 2003, I've gone through my sexual harassment policy in detail with all of my employees. And I said, don't let me have you talked about it. I hope we don't have to talk about this again because somebody's filing a complaint on you. I hope we don't have to do that. And nobody has really ever, actually I had one time where somebody had made a comment, and I had to investigate and I had to go through everything, and it was a big pain in the butt. So make sure you have, and the one thing like I said, I've been missing, but I'll be compliant. I'm now compliant, is a complaint form that the employee can fill out. Now, the next thing is, how about if it's the boss that's doing this? What do you do if it's the boss that's doing it? Well, they can't go to the boss and complain on the boss. So you can contact the New York State Social, I forgot what it is, it's on their website, who to contact. But basically you can go to social affairs for your state employment office and file a complaint with them actually on the boss. So that's how that works. And that was something I was missing as well. Jamie and I run the restaurant together, so they could go to either one of us back or forth. If they're filing something on me, which has never happened, then they could go to Jamie. If it was on Jamie, then they would come to me. But since we're married, that might be a conflict. But we're co-owners of the restaurant. We're dual bosses. But you need to have some kind of way for them to go above your head as the boss and be able to file a complaint, because if they couldn't file a complaint, then what's the point of having this whole thing anyway? Of course, they could, claim and take you to court and stuff like that. So the new policy from New York State, if you're in any other state, I suggest you go newyork.gov and just after that do a search in Google for sexual harassment policy, and you will find a whole thing, and you can basically just take this and you can put your own information in there. See the highlighted, we put Aromatime Bistro in there, and that's what we did. So we're sending this out to all of our coaching clients ASAP, and super important to get on board here in New York State. October 6th is the deadline, 2019, to have this in place. They've given us almost a full year, by the way, folks, to do this. A lot of restaurants, a lot of businesses are scrambling at the last minute here. to put together some kind of policy. So that's today's video. Super important. You don't want to get sued. You don't want to get in trouble, and you don't want to have an unfriendly workplace for your employees. You want to be able to take action quickly. And now, of course, I'm not a legal representative. I'm just telling you what I do in my business, and I'm telling you what the New York State website says and how to comply. Every state is different. You might want to run this by your attorney, things like that, your legal counsel. The one thing that I need to run by my legal counsel is, can I actually put a specific time period in there? So again, they don't come back to me 3 months, 4 months later and say, well, so-and-so had a screensaver back in April that was offensive, and now, what if so-and-so doesn't work here anymore? Or what if so-and-so does work here? See, the biggest problem right now is, what if Sally and Jim, and Sally gets mad, and Jim says something to Sally that she brushes off back in April, but now it's October, and Sally and Jim get into a scuffle, into a fight, and Sally wants revenge on Jim, and now the things that Jim has done in the past are no longer acceptable. And Sally comes to me and says, Marcus, Jim back in April told an inappropriate joke, and I'm very offended by it, and I want you to take action on it. See, I think Sally needs to decide in the first 48 hours or 72 hours, whatever. New York State needs to come up with something here where Sally can't decide that she's going to what is inappropriate, what isn't appropriate based upon their work relationship 6 months down the road. Sally needs to decide up front, or Jim needs to decide up front, hey, this person offended me, and I need to report this right away, or at least have a conversation, say, hey, don't do that to me. If you're going to do that to me, I am going to. But, if an employee's getting in a little tiff 6 months down the road, one of them might say, well, 6 months ago you said that, and 5 months ago you said that, and 4 months ago you said that, and now I'm going to make a big deal about it, but before it wasn't a big deal. Whether it was appropriate or inappropriate, I think New York State needs to define that, and they don't have that on their website. So again, I would definitely consult a legal counsel on this issue, and it's super important to have this in place. And again, go to NewYork.ny.gov and do a little search there for their sexual harassment policy. And that should cover really much. If a state does not have this in place right now in the workplace, you'll have more than enough information to write a totally very tight and solid sexual harassment discrimination policy and put that in place. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And until next time.